I'm just going to do an insight video again today. I'm still getting lots of communication from guidance. Yesterday I felt when I was in the gym yesterday, like Saint Germain was coming through. It's very much around transformation, transmutation. Again, like I keep talking about this universal law of perpetual transmutation. Very much connected to the third dimensional reality and the fifth dimensional reality. The communication I keep getting is very much around sort of. I've been listening to a lot of other people, like some other people that are sort of talking about the fifth dimensional reality, and they keep talking about creating something outside of yourself, like new ways of being and like new ways of acting, and how you sort of integrate or interact with the outer world, in a sense of how you sort of like try and be more sort of connected to the fifth dimension, and how you do this is to sort of rise above and shift your vibration and your frequency in relation to the external world, the outer world. However, my communication keeps talking about the inner world, and it keeps talking about creating the outer world is not where the third dimensional reality exists, and the communication I keep getting is very strong about being on the inner world, and the only way that you can really truly access the fifth dimension is from the inner world. So it keeps discussing being within yourself, and that's where you connect to your source energy, your source vibration, and your infinite being. And I keep getting drawn into going into the inner world and just dissolving the outer world, because that outer world is just like basically a 3D blueprint and sort of like a frequency, but it's external, it's completely external, and that's not where your source energy lives. Your source energy lives inside on your internal energy or your inner world. So I'm being told to go in and meditate and remain in there, but it's not even meditation, it's actually just sitting in that vibration, it's sitting in that frequency, and it dissolves the outer world. It's like people talk about projecting. For me, it's like once you go in that inner world and you align with it, it then starts to express spiritually on the external world, and it dissolves that, and it actually creates a new blueprint, which is a new reality, which is the fifth dimensional reality, the fifth dimensional frequency. And this is what I'm being drawn to at the moment. Being drawn very strongly to this. Like this week, I've been very caught up in, like I've got like a job interview coming up, and I'm very much sort of been getting up in the morning and thinking about like this presentation that I need to do for a job, and that's all external world, that's all 3D blueprint and reality, and you start getting caught up into that. And what happens again? They're saying when you get caught up in that 3D reality, then that's the reality that you're expressing and you're creating. And when you're co-creating that, like the communication and the access to the fifth dimensional reality. You become dormant again. It's like because you're outside, you're not within yourself, you're outside in the outer world, the external world, and you're being distracted, and you're being sort of distracted by all these things, which is the object world, which is like the economy, the world, materialism, all those kind of things. Like if you're thinking about money and stuff like that, it's a very sort of 3D concept, it's a 3D reality. And when you're getting caught up in that, because that's the frequency that we're living in, but we're being told to go beyond that, being told to dissolve that. The security and the energy of the fifth dimensional reality is very much knowing like that you can trust that you're secure, and that the universe is providing. It's asking you to go within yourself and dissolve that. So I was at the gym yesterday, and I was just running on the treadmill again. And then when I'm running on the treadmill, it's like, and I'm in the gym, I'm being told to go back into that vibration, and the fifth dimensional vibration and frequency is very much around energy and light. It's a completely different frequency to the external world, which is a very physical and a heavy sort of objective reality. It's very, physical objects, things like that, and it's not like that. So within each of the fifth dimensional reality, there's seeds of creation, or there's a blueprint of creation, which is a spiritual reality, a spiritual blueprint. It's an energetic blueprint, and this is where the co-creation and your energy, they meet and they align. And once you start to do that, then you open up your energy centers and you open up your source energy, and you start to co-create with the source. So the source then starts to align with you, and your infinite being, your higher self, starts to connect in, And that's when you start to create from a very spiritual plane, not a very it's not a physical plane, it's a spiritual plane. And the fifth dimensional reality is very much around that. As I'm connecting into this, I've got a vision of Almora in my head. As I'm connected into that, the long brown beard and the blue sort of like headdress that he tends to wear, and that very much connected to like, which is the sort of like the ascended master sort of vision that when you go on ascended masters you can see that. It's very much around the divine will, the divine he's sort of like intelligent, and this is where the source energy comes from, and I'm very much being connected to that. So that's that first stage is shifting away from sort of like feeling like the external world, and the three-dimensional blueprint is what's like driving your reality. The reality is creating outside of yourself. When you connect to the 3D reality, the external world is just like it's just distracting you everywhere. It's like you're not creating anything. You're being led by events and things that are happening outside of you. When you come into the fifth dimensional reality, you come into your co-creation, then you start to realize that your energy opens up, and that divine force and that divine reality is what you are, and you start to create from that place, which is when you start to create your reality, not your reality being sort of like, your reality is, you start to realize that you have this the ability to transform and transmutate, which is where Saint Germain comes in again, and this is where this violet flame comes in. It transmutes and transforms your life, but you start to realize that your energy and your light has a frequency, and you actually, in this fifth dimensional blueprint, you can create that reality. And again, like I keep saying, this is connected on an individual level, but it's also connected on a high spiritual level with the planet, with infinite beings. Because once you start to open up to the fifth dimensional reality, you start to open up to a spiritual reality, and this is where all the guides, the angels, the celestial beings live. They don't live in the external world. That's why you don't see them, and that's why you tend to feel, if you're living in an external world, you become shut off, or you become closed down, and you're not open to that communication and that infinite source and intelligence that's flowing through, which is the flow of the universe. So this is where they keep telling me about the fifth dimensional blueprint and the fifth dimensional reality, and I keep being drawn to this. And it's so important at the moment that we all need to dissolve this third dimensional reality to start to then allow this fifth dimensional reality to become part of every day, which is our spiritual reality, which is our true essence, and it connects into source. So we have to keep going within to remain connected to that source energy, and that's where the frequency is. But if you're getting drawn out into the outer reality, then you're becoming closed off, because that outer reality is not where the guides and the masters and all that. They don't work on that frequency. The fifth dimension is the starting point where you really start to open up to the guides and the beings, but you don't in the third dimensional reality. So it's about learning and consciously creating that connection every day, in every moment of everything you do. And this is what they keep saying: consciously create it. So remain in it, remain in that frequency. So come from a place where you're always connected within, so you're always connected to your infinite being and your source energy. So every experience, every situation, everything that you're sort of like is happening like in your external world, you need to be connected on the inner world, because that's where the communication, the intuition comes from, the insight comes from, and this is what they're saying. So you have to remain in there. So it's about remaining on that fifth dimensional frequency, which is the source energy, which is you. But that energy frequency is on the inner world, it's not on the external world. And what you'll start to do is you'll dissolve that 3D reality, and all that will be left will be a fifth dimensional blueprint, and then your life will reflect that, because the universe will reflect that blueprint, because that's what your frequency and your energy and your vibration is creating, and it's co-creating with your infinite being and the source energy and the divine source. It's about just being in that. If we start, it can be anything. So a third dimensional reality is worry, fear, doubt, anything like that is a worry. But you've stepped outside of that frequency of the fifth dimension, where you know all things are created in perfect union, perfect harmony, and they're all part, and they're working out exactly how they should do, and you're working out exactly how and going where you should do. Once you start stepping outside of that, then you're in a 3D reality. So all the external problems and worries of the world are all a manifestation of living in 3D reality. And that's what they're telling me. So they're telling me that you have to remain in that 5D reality where there's only harmony, there's only sort of union, there's connection. And when you sit in the fifth dimensional reality, it just dissolves these outer problems, because they don't exist. They're not part of the blueprint. They're not part of reality. So that's why it's so important to remain in it, and that's where the transmutation and the transformation comes from. And this again connects to the universal laws of frequency, vibration. I keep being told to talk about this 3D reality and 5D blueprint because that's what they're trying to get me to live at the moment. So they're teaching me through my own experience, from my own sort of reality, and I have to keep doing that. So it's about sort of when you approach things, it's hard to explain, but for me it's like, if I'm connected into the world, I'm connected into energy, light, warmth. It's like this frequency of being at peace. So whenever you go into anything, if you're in that frequency before you come into that experience, whatever experience is coming at you, and you can actually actively activate that frequency. And how you do that is remaining in that energy, in your center, and within that source energy, that frequency, because you know it exists there, because we've all felt that. We've all felt aligned, we've all felt connected, we've all felt where communication's coming from, and that's the frequency. And you have to keep sort of building that. So like with this job interview coming up that I've got, the external thing is worrying about, it's all the worries about whether something's going to go right or something like that. But if you stay and remain in that fifth dimensional frequency, you then go in a place of harmony and peace, and you can actually move into that. So you'll then dissolve all those fears and worries, and what will play out is what's meant to, and whatever the outcome is what's meant to happen. So that you're not attached to an outcome or something that's come along. You're just being in that moment with that energy, that frequency. And it's also trusting that like that infinite being and that source energy is creating exactly the opportunities, but also the situations and events that's needed for your journey, for your path. So if something doesn't work out, it's not because it's not aligned. So it's like you start to trust and realize that. So it's about letting go and acceptance again. But there's so much going on for me. I keep remaining in it, but I've had a week where, because I've been worrying about this job interview and I've been doing that, I've actually been disconnected, and I've noticed the difference. It's like I noticed that I feel dormant when I'm in it, and that when I'm in the fifth dimensional frequency, it doesn't feel like that. It just feels like everything is working out how it is, how it should do. That I'm protected, that I'm guided, that you know whatever's going to play out, that I've been supported and I'll be directed and guided where I need to and what I need to do. So it's that trust thing. But the fifth dimensional reality is it's not even about trust. It's because you're aligned and you're open, and because you're in that frequency. Those things that are external, that drive you, that distract you, they're dissolved. They don't exist. They're not relevant. What's relevant is that fifth dimensional reality. It's quite hard to explain because it's not a physical thing, it's a spiritual frequency and an energetic frequency. But I'm getting lots of that around that at the moment. And it's about creating that space, that space where you're always in that, consciously in that fifth dimensional reality, and it takes practice daily. And if a pattern comes up, dissolve it. If something comes up that's not working for you, dissolve it. And if something isn't, say you're the external world is bringing you stress and anxiety, then go within and sit in that and watch it dissolve, and watch those things dissolve, but also watch what comes out, because then it starts to come out new thoughts, like creative processes, things that start to show you or light the way, or show you like show you some sort of, or give you some kind of thought that shows you a solution, or or a resolution or something like that, and it comes from being in that energy. because all fifth dimensional reality is always going back to harmony, it's always going back to balance, always going back to peace, it's always going back to union, because it's all about the universal laws and about union being like a oneness, about being in harmony, about being in balance. And you have a tool, because like this fifth dimensional reality, you have a tool to be in light and energy and dissolve things that are barriers and challenges, because they're just like 3D reality, and these things that come up as well are part of the process, because when the more you go into 5D reality, the more you dissolve those things that have distracted you, those kind of challenges, those barriers that have come up in your life, you dissolve them, and what you're doing is you're creating a new blueprint, and you're creating a new blueprint, and you're doing it for co-creation. So the more you do it, the more you dissolve it and clear out and cleanse those things. And it's like, so it's all very much around sort of cleansing and clearing and harmonizing. So there's a lot of that going on at the moment. And obviously we're coming into Christmas. Well, you know, what else would the message be about coming into the new year? But it's we're all supposed to be creating this higher frequency. So when we go into the new energies and of like the planet and the energy frequencies of the universal energy frequencies that are harmonizing and coming, and the new energy frequencies, is about us being in that higher frequency, that higher reality. And when we are, what we do is then we create a new blueprint, and that's what we're all here to do. This is what the fifth dimensional reality and frequency is coming, is creating a new blueprint for the planet, a new way of being. And that's a really important thing, in being, because that's what the fifth dimensional reality feels like. You're just being in energy, and you're being open to receive with your higher and your infinite self, and then you're connecting to source, so then they align, and so what's being created is the highest outcome for yourself, but it's also the highest outcome for the planet, it's the highest outcome for all beings. And this is what the fifth dimensional reality is about. It's about that reality, and this is when they mean like heaven on earth as well. So there's a lot of things going on, so there's a lot of dissolving and clearing. So that's just the insight for today.